It begins. China just did something to North Korea that'll have Trump cheering. Jong Un may not realize it, but the situation is getting worse and worse between him and the US. According to the Wall Street Journal, all flights from China's carrier China Airlines between Beijing and North Korea have been temporarily suspended. Here is the live stream from North Korea. It is up to them whether they conduct a nuclear test. An Air China representative said that the flight suspensions issued on Friday that flights between the two countries would resume at the end of May. Initial reports said that flights had been cancelled altogether. According to Reuters, Air China said that the flights had been only temporarily suspended. It could all be a cover, though. Air China will say whatever the Chinese government wants it to. It is blaming the cancellation on poor ticket sales. Air China did not stop operation of the Beijing to Pyongyang route, but temporarily cancelled some flights based on the situation of ticket sales, a spokesperson for Air China said. It seems like Trump has done the impossible and drove a wedge between North Korea and China, terrified Kim Jong Un just gave huge gift to Trump without realizing when he made this shocking admission. President Trump and his addiction to Twitter have thrown fuel on the international fire that's causing some tension. An official from North Korea has stated that Trump's tweets are basically a bit of a problem and that if there's any indication that Trump's train will drop bombs over there, that they'll essentially strike first. Via the Washington Times. Pyongyang, North Korea, AP, President Donald Trump's tweets are adding fuel to a vicious cycle of tensions on the Korean peninsula, North Korea's vice foreign minister told the Associated Press in an exclusive interview Friday. The official added that if the US shows any sign of reckless military aggression, Pyongyang is ready to launch a preemptive strike of its own. Now we have a chess game. This is called you think we're going to strike, so we think you're going to strike, so we strike before you strike, and now we're at World War III. Sounds rather stupid to me. How about we go back to minding our own business, fighting terrorism, and calling it a day with a Coke and a smile? Ah, scratch that. Get me a Pepsi. Vice Minister Han Song-ril said Pyongyang has determined the Trump administration is more vicious and more aggressive than that of his predecessor, Barack Obama. He added that North Korea will keep building up its nuclear arsenal in quality and quantity, and said Pyongyang is ready to go to war if that's what Trump wants. Now that's a gift that keeps on giving. Trump is more vicious than Obama? Obama was mostly golfing and going on vacations. When he wasn't doing that, then he was traveling to other countries to apologize to them for things that happened in the past that weren't even under his watch. He was the perfect candidate for the Women's March, and he should have dressed as a giant vagina like the liberal ladies. Tensions between Pyongyang and Washington go back to President Harry Truman and the 1950-53 Korean War, which ended in an armistice, not a peace treaty. But the heat has been rising rapidly since Trump took office in January. Here's a great idea. Put the fire out and go back to being your own great countries. When someone starts a problem, then team up to take them out, and resume your ordinary life doing whatever you do in your country. I think most of the tensions are caused by overreactions from leftists blowing things out of proportion like it's a Moab, striking your brain and exploding your thoughts. As long as the great powers of the world are on the same page and take out the scummy terrorists, then we're all going to be fine. People think a few Trump tweets will enact World War III, but it won't. Big countries don't want to be in the middle of a war because it could probably affect their economy. If you mess with someone's economy, then they lose money. No one likes to lose money. This year's joint war games between the US and South Korean militaries are the biggest ever. The USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier has been diverted back to the waters off Korea after heading for Australia, and US satellite imagery suggests the North could conduct another underground nuclear test at any time. Pyongyang recently tested a ballistic missile and claims it is close to perfecting an intercontinental ballistic missile and nuclear warhead that could attack the US mainland. Awesome. They should be testing their weapons. We test ours. If you think we don't, then you're probably not the brightest rock in the crayon dictionary. What? If someone has a missile that can reach another continent, That's fine because other people have missiles that can shoot down missiles. America has Chris Christie. We put a pizza on the end of that missile and he lit it up himself. We can watch his BMI blast through his belt buckle as he dips North Korean missiles in pretzel mustard. Many experts believe that at its current pace of testing, North Korea could reach that potentially game-changing milestone within a few years, under Trump's watch as president. Despite reports that Washington is considering military action if the North goes ahead with another nuclear test, Han did not rule out the possibility of a test in the near future. Doesn't bother me one bit. Every country with a powerful military conducts tests to increase their strength and power. This is what every country should always do. If you let your military become outdated, then what good will they be if something ever happened? All countries should keep their weaponry up to date, but that doesn't mean it should be scary to anyone. I'm sure there are tons of liberals freaking out over Trump bombing terrorists with the Moab, and now there might be paranoia over North Korea testing missiles. If anything, this entire article is nothing but a compliment to President Trump, who was basically told that he's more of a man than the previous leader. Trump should thank North Korea for the compliment. In a tweet, of course, Gowdy just revealed shocking announcement about sick leftist pedophile ring and doesn't hold back. If there was one topic that I am determined to expose, it would be Pizzagate. The depths of depravity that is in Washington, D.C., and around the world needs to be exposed. These people have kidnapped children and have made them slaves in their sexual deviant lifestyle. However, while the majority of Americans desire that these allegations be investigated, the mainstream media is determined to bury it. Well, it now appears that we may finally get some answers now that Trey Gowdy has returned to Congress. Trey Gowdy is determined to drain the swamp in Washington and put these pedophiles behind bars for good. On Trey Gowdy's first day back in Congress, he acknowledged that there was an elite pedophile ring in Washington, D.C. But, that was just part of it. Gowdy also went on to say that there would be an investigation into this ring. He also warned that anyone who stood in the way would have to explain to the American people why they were protecting these perverts. I want you to give me a list of the providers that are giving you a hard time. We are going to have another hearing here. We are going to have them come and publicly explain why they are having a hard time complying with law enforcement in child exploitation and child abuse cases, he said. Watch the entire clip here. Trey Gowdy also went on to say that the investigations into this have deeply impacted him. More than anything else, we are united in our inability to get the images out of our heads. This is fantastic news, and it is about damn time that Washington, D.C. took notice. The left would love for this to be swept away as some right-wing conspiracy, but we cannot allow that to happen. Just a few weeks ago, I reported that Dr. Phil began to delve into this disgusting world. In a chilling interview, he spoke to a young woman by the name of Kendall, who was a former sex slave. Kendall spoke about high-powered politicians from around the world who were engaging in pedophilia. Shortly after Dr. Phil aired this bombshell investigation, he was booted off the air in the Netherlands. As Freedom Daily reported previously. One day after this heinous report aired, a Dutch media company pulled the plug on the Dr. Phil show, ending their 15-year partnership. The timing of this happening could not be more suspicious considering the topic that was discussed. Also, what needs to be considered is the Netherlands' history with pedophilia. In 2013, a Dutch court ruled that an unharmed organization that promotes the legalization of sex between adults and children has the right to continue to promote it. Thank goodness we have people in Congress like Trey Gowdy who is willing to take a stand for the innocent. This needs to be exposed as quickly as possible in order to save future children from this evil. Liberals, of course, will do anything to stand in the way of this to save their own skin. They know that they will be held responsible for covering these atrocities up and not investigating them. We must keep Trey Gowdy in prayer since he is about to go after unspeakable evil. We must hold our politicians accountable for covering this up as well, in my opinion. Too many innocent souls have been damaged because no one stood up for them. How many more children need to be subjected to this horror before it is stopped? Please share this story and show your support for Trey Gowdy. We need more people like him in office. In office. Breaking, Air Force warns of terror attack. Here's what parts of US could be without power for months. There's many malicious people out there who are actively plotting to take the United States down. While most of us are fully aware of how terrorists are infiltrating our country while posing as refugees, there's an even more terrifying thing we should be concerned with that top military brass are now asserting is a real possibility. In a recent Air Force briefing, intel was revealed about how America's enemies are looking for a way to shut down America's electrical supply for months by using an EMP, electromagnetic pulse explosion. The Washington Examiner was able to review the intel that was given during the briefing, where it was nothing short of terrifying. Top brass there said they are growing increasingly concerned that determined adversaries like ISIS and North Korea are doing everything in their power to target our country's power supply. Experts have suggested that North Korea, for example, is testing missiles to launch a nuclear weapon from a ship off the U.S. coast into the atmosphere where an explosion could shut off electricity for months through an atmospheric EMP explosion, the paper wrote. Jong Un has been pitching a massive fit following President Trump's airstrike on Syria, and has been rattling his sabers threatening nuclear war. Being that an EMP attack is likely his course of action, our military are doing everything they can in preparation. What makes an EMP attack unique is that it's the perfect asymmetric weapon for state actors to level the playing field by immediately taking out the great technical advantage that the U.S. military possesses in just a single blow. What's nerve-wracking however is that we aren't really sure what North Korea's capabilities are, as their military capabilities have long been shrouded in secrecy. Tone Institute. Even an EMP attack from a single 10-kiloton nuclear weapon, of the type now in North Korea's arsenal, could cause cascading failures which could black out the U.S. eastern grid for months or years, and devastate the civilian economy. An EMP, detonated at an altitude above 30-70 kilometers, could be delivered by a short-range missile fired off a freighter, hundreds of kilometers off U.S. shores. But it's not just a nuclear EMP we have to be concerned about. It's been frequently reported how the Chinese and Russians are using cyber attacks to steal data from the United States' critical infrastructure that deals with telecommunications, electrical power, and internet backbones, which would be detrimental to our nation's survival if taken down. Free Beacon previously reported. Critical American infrastructure like the electric grid will remain vulnerable to catastrophic cyber attacks from Russia and China for at least 10 years, according to a Pentagon study. A report by a Defense Science Board task force concludes that the decade-long cyber vulnerabilities must be mitigated while the Pentagon quickly creates new cyber deterrence capabilities, including offensive cyber weapons designed to inflict damage on adversaries and their leaders. The 44-page report, Task Force on Cyber Deterrence, was made public February 28. It is based on a 2-year study by a panel of military and defense experts. The report presents a dire picture of weaknesses in both military and civilian information and control systems that are being exploited by advanced cyber warfare states such as China and Russia, along with second-tier cyber threats from states such as North Korea and Iran. The United States, as well as our allies and partners, are at serious and increasing risk of severe cyber attack and increasingly costly cyber intrusions, the report concludes. The requirement for enhanced deterrence is, in our view, not debatable. Nor is the need to accelerate the implementation of deterrence measures. This scenario has long been considered by doomsday preppers, where a plethora of material exists on the internet that can help you and your family get prepared. An EMP attack on the U.S. would leave the country with no electricity, no communications, no transportation, no fuel, no food, and no running water, and within 72 hours, millions of Americans would be dead.